As a new leader, you probably started getting bombarded with how you need to be able to think fast on your feet, you need to know how to make decisions and provide direction to your team on a daily basis. You see leaders in your life that you admire and you see how quickly it is for them to make decisions and how the decisions are good and meaningful and produce positive outcomes, yada, yada, yada. And is it something that's core to your role and something that would be expected of you? Heck yeah. But is it teachable? Is it something you can learn? Absolutely yes, as well. In this video, I am going to be sharing a few tips on some factors you want to consider while you're making decisions. Decision making is sometimes difficult, but is it impossible? No. And this is because there is that element of uncertainty. It's very futuristic, and so nobody knows the future. So you can't really tell, if your decision is going to be the right one or not. But there are certain factors that can help you make better and quicker and more effective decisions. So if this is you in any way, sit back, relax, and enjoy. You don't want to miss this. Welcome to another episode on the Growth Leadership Cafe. My name is Adesua, and on this channel I talk about all things personal and organizational leadership, especially for my folks who are new to management. So if you're new to some form of supervisory role or you're considering taking a supervisory role, then this is a space for you, because here you are going to start building the capacity so you can become that phenomenal industry leader that you aspire to be, okay? So if this is your first time coming across my YouTube channel, you're very welcome. It means that you're in search for tips and tricks on how to build your capacity. So this will be a great time to subscribe, because I post videos every Tuesday, 8 o'clock Central Time, and you don't want to miss that. All right, moving to the topic for today. I am speaking about decision making. Now, there's a lot of pander about how leaders have to be great at making decisions. You need to be able to think fast on your feet, provide meaningful, effective direction, that produces good outcomes for you, for your business, for your team. You're not wrong to have that expectation as a leader. People are looking up to you for direction. However, decision making is not something that you make for the most part independently and in isolation from your team and your environment. There are factors you want to consider. So in this video, I am sharing some of the factors I consider in helping me make more meaningful decisions. All right, this is something that has worked for me for the most part. And decision making, again, is sometimes hit or miss. You take a decision and you try it out and it doesn't stick, and you go back to the drawing board and you do it again and see what sticks. All right. Don't feel discouraged when you make a decision and it doesn't produce the outcome that you expected. That's completely normal. But it's to keep trying and doing your research and trying to consult others who maybe are ahead of you in figuring out what are the best next steps. All right. So the first factor that I consider when I am making a decision, and this is not something that I would say, I'd go through like 1, 2, 3, because now, I have been in management for a long time now, so this comes more naturally for me. But at the time when I was still just starting out, it was something that I had to be very deliberate and intentional about to help me, become better in making decisions and quicker decisions. So the first thing I think about is, what is the chain of hierarchy in your organization? Now, so as a new manager, you're probably part of junior management. And so that means that, you have maybe a leadership team that you collaborate with in leading or managing whatever business or program, that you lead. And so it's really considering that first and making sure that you are including those people in that decision-making process. Okay, so like if something comes up, you're sharing, you're communicating, hey, this just came up and these are my thoughts on it, what do you think? So I would say, especially as a junior manager, supervisor, team leader, whatever your title is that you want to have thought about the situation first. From your perspective, what do you think is the right next step? Okay, and don't be afraid to share that. So go to your leadership team that you work with and just let them know this has come up, these are, some of the details about it, and this is what I was thinking. What are your thoughts, right? So you're not just saying, this came up, you figure it out, you tell me what to do, and I'll go relay that to the team, right? So it wants to show that you've also thought about the situation, and you having your thoughts, it doesn't mean that that would be the final decision. It could be, right? If you're consulting with someone, you're picking someone else's brain and you're telling, oh yeah, right, this and this, I agree with this, maybe we should add this to it and do this to that, and but you are collaborating with someone. So I would say always make sure that you are communicating with your whatever the lines of communication of or chain of authority is within your organization, is that because at the end of the day, if you go do something and make a decision that you didn't really cue the people around you into, it's going to be like, well, who authorized this? Why did you do this? Who did you speak to? Yada yada yada. And that's very messy, and you don't want to get in the middle of all of that. So I'd say that's the first thing that I think about, is when something has come up, I think about it as well. It's like marinate on it a little bit, and then I communicate that to whoever is in my leadership team. And if you don't have someone and it's just you that manages that program, but however, even if you are in a paid employment situation, there would always be someone who's ahead of you, right? Who you are directly reporting to. So that can be helpful for you, especially if you're just starting out, because that person knows more than you do, right? So it's very important that you leverage those relationships, you leverage those partnerships, and making sure that you're making this decision that is beneficial for your team, for your business outcomes, whatever you're working towards. The second thing I think about is, what do I have control over in this whole decision making process? What is something that I have direct control over, that if I do X, Y, and Z, it will produce this outcome for me? What don't I have control over? So thinking about what you have control over, so that's something that you're absolutely sure that you can give to some level of certainty that you can accomplish X, Y, and Z. And when you're thinking about, which is the third thing essentially, when you're thinking about what don't I have control over, is also considering the risks associated with that. And with decision making, there's always some level of risk, so it's also accepting that there is that, okay? And that risk it's futuristic. It could be a threat, it could be an opportunity, right? But so considering what the level of risk involved in that is, so looking at the positive, the negative, and then moving on to my next point is considering, what can you live with? If this negative is the outcome of this, does that have a huge impact on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, or does it not? Right? Or what's the severity of the impact on what it is that you're working towards? All right. So thinking of all of these factors, it really helps me personally, and it has worked for my clients. And I think that's something that when you put it into practice, it will feel more natural to you after practicing for a couple of times. And there's really no one really takes precedence over the other. But I would say, even before you go speak to your immediate supervisor or director or manager, whoever that is think about all of these factors. So you're thinking about what is the situation here, what do I have control over here, what don't I have control over here, what are the risks, whether that's opportunities or threats, and is this something that is very, very detrimental to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And it's okay if you don't have all of these aspects of it figured out, especially if you're starting out. You might not have the full picture. Do your research, get as much information as you can, and then communicate that, share that to whoever it is, your immediate supervisor. If you need to brainstorm with the team as well, always know that it's not just entirely up to you. You are in a team environment, so leverage all of those people around you. So if you need to have a quick hurdle with the team, just say, hey, this just came up, I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, because ultimately your team is responsible for your work, right? So you want to make sure that it feels more collaborative and you're including them in that process. The other method that I believe works really well is consulting maybe industry professionals or people who have access to that sort of information and might be able to give you a different perspective on the matter. So, and if you feel like you don't have the answers right away, and maybe a team member is there is asking you, hey, what do I do, yada yada yada, and if you feel like you don't have all of the aspects of it figured out, don't succumb to that pressure of having an answer right away. Okay, so you can let them know, you know what, let me think about this a little, let me do a little digging into this and I'll get back to you. Okay, and just obviously working within a reasonable amount of time, and not dragging it for too long. But again, what I've seen that really works, especially for a new manager, is really leveraging those around you. So if that's your direct supervisor or the person you report to, go to them. If it's your team, go to them. If there are people within your organization, even outside your organization that you believe have access to that information and might be able to give you, a more expert opinion on the matter, by all means do that. Okay, but with time it will feel more natural to you, and as you get more familiar with the process and all of the components of your job, this will come much easier for you. All right, and if for any reason you make a decision and it comes back and it backfires, that's okay. Don't take it too hard on yourself that you're poor and you're terrible at being a manager. None of that. Okay, learn from it. What was the mistake there, and try not to do that in the future, and explore alternative options. So that's really all I have to say on this matter. This has worked for me for so long, and sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm not. Okay, but I also appreciate the people around me because they teach me so much. I learn so much from them. So just because you're a manager doesn't mean you're a know-it-all. Nobody does, but like even your direct supervisor might not have that answer, but by sharing your thoughts on it, you guys might come to a different, more meaningful decision as on that matter. Okay, so always make sure that you are taking advantage, or not taking advantage, but just leveraging the people around you in coming to that decision. All right, and if for any reason you don't have access to that, and it's really up to you, especially for business owners, and you're just trying to figure things out, it's also, the internet has a wealth of information. Like, we're living in such a digital age right now that there's so much information out there. So use that. Go on YouTube, go on Instagram, Facebook, and just see what's out there, and you would definitely find someone who has a lived experience or an expert opinion on that specific subject. Okay, so take advantage of all of that, but again, don't take everything to heart when things don't go your way or it doesn't go as expected. All right, thank you so much for listening. That's all I have to say on this matter. If you appreciated what you just heard, I'd say give this video a like. All right, and let me know that you appreciate the content coming out of this channel, and if you're not yet subscribed, I'll say do so right now so you get a notification every time I post a video. And until next time, take care of yourself. All right, bye for now.